What if I told you that some of the easiest foods to grow do not need soil, a backyard, or expensive tools? Most people think growing food takes a lot of space and months of work, but some everyday kitchen scraps can regrow with nothing more than water, sunlight, and a little patience. Green onions, lettuce, herbs, and other common foods can often keep growing right on your counter instead of ending up in the trash. For people who want to waste less, save money, and become a little more self-reliant, this is one of the simplest ways to start. In this video, you will discover 7 foods that can regrow in water, including one that can give you fresh greens in just a few days, and another that may keep producing over and over again. First one is green onions, often called the endless onion. If there's one place to start, it's right here. Green onions are probably the easiest food you can regrow in water, and once you try it, it almost feels too simple to be real. All you need is the white root end, the part most people cut off and toss without a second thought. Set those roots in a small glass with a bit of water, and within a day or two, you'll start to see fresh green shoots rising again. What makes green onions so special is that they don't just grow back once. If you trim them properly and leave the roots intact, they'll keep producing over and over again. You're not replanting every time. You're continuing a cycle that's already alive. It turns a single purchase into something ongoing, something that quietly keeps giving. This kind of regrowth isn't new. For generations, especially during times when food was scarce or money was tight, people made full use of what they had. In home kitchens around the world, scraps weren't seen as waste. They were seen as potential. Green onions were often placed in jars near windows, not as a trend, but as a habit. A simple way to stretch meals just a little further and make sure nothing useful was lost. There's a reason this works so well, and it comes down to how the plant is built. At the base of the green onion is a highly active growth zone, often called a meristem. This is where new cells are constantly being formed. Even after the top has been cut, the base remains alive and ready to grow. The roots don't need soil to function right away. They're efficient at pulling what they need from water, especially in these early stages. With a little light and consistent moisture, the plant simply continues what it was already doing. To keep things working smoothly, there are a couple of simple habits that make a big difference. Change the water every couple of days so it stays fresh and clear. So why did something this simple fade out of everyday life? In many ways, it comes down to convenience. Green onions became cheap, easy to find, always available. And over time, we got used to treating food as something replaceable instead of renewable. The habit of regrowing faded because it didn't seem necessary anymore. But now, as more people look for ways to be a little more self-reliant, these small practices are quietly making their way back. Think of green onions like a candle that keeps lighting itself again and again from the same flame. You don't need to start over each time. You just keep it going, one small cut at a time. Second is romaine lettuce, the second chance green. Romaine lettuce is one of those foods most of us use once and forget. You chop the leaves, toss the base, and move on. But that base still has life in it. If you take the bottom core, the part that holds everything together, and place it in a shallow dish of water, something interesting starts to happen. Within a few days, you'll see small, fresh leaves begin to form right from the center. Now, it's important to understand what this is and what it isn't. You're not going to grow a full new head of lettuce in water. But what you do get is a steady little supply of tender greens. Enough to top a sandwich, add to a plate, or give you that fresh crunch without starting from scratch. It's simple, modest, and surprisingly satisfying. This practice goes back further than most people realize. Home gardeners have long understood that many vegetables still carry energy even after harvest. In smaller homes, especially in cities where space was tight, people learned to reuse what they could, a windowsill, a bowl, and a leftover base were enough to extend the life of a plant just a little longer. It wasn't called anything special. It was just part of being resourceful. From a science standpoint, what's happening is fairly straightforward. The base of the romaine still contains living plant cells that haven't completed their cycle. When you place it in water and give it light, those cells continue to function. They absorb moisture, use stored energy, and begin producing new growth. Photosynthesis picks back up as the leaves form, even if on a smaller scale. The plant isn't starting over. It's continuing from where it left off. To get the best results, a few simple steps help. Before placing the base in water, give it a quick rinse to remove any dirt or residue. Use a shallow dish so the bottom sits in water but isn't fully submerged. And make sure to change the water regularly. Stagnant water can slow things down and affect the quality of the leaves. Place it near a window with good light, and within days, you'll see progress. It's also worth keeping expectations grounded. Romaine regrowth in water is best for short-term use. The leaves are fresh and delicate, but the plant doesn't have the full support system it would need for long-term production. Think of it as a bonus harvest rather than a replacement. So why did this simple practice fall out of view? In large part, it's because of how easy it became to just buy more. Grocery stores made fresh produce constantly available, and over time, we stopped seeing scraps as something useful. The idea of regrowing lettuce felt unnecessary when a new head was always within reach. Slowly, the habit faded, and the knowledge went with it. But when you try it yourself, even once, it shifts your perspective. You begin to notice that what looks like the end of something might not really be the end at all. Think of romaine like finding life still quietly moving after the story seemed finished. It doesn't start over loudly. It just continues, gently, right where it left off. Third one is celery, the comeback stalk. Celery is one of those vegetables that looks completely finished once you've cut it down. You use the stalks, toss the base, and assume that's the end of the story. But if you take that bottom core, the firm, round base where all the stalks were connected, and place it in a shallow dish of water, you'll start to see something unexpected. Right from the center, small leaves begin to rise, slowly at first, then a little more each day. This isn't instant growth. It's gradual, steady, and easy to follow with your own eyes. Over time, those small leaves begin to stretch upward, and the plant starts rebuilding itself from the inside out. It's not a full, grocery store bunch right away, but it's real growth, happening right in front of you. This method has been used quietly for generations. In many households, especially where people valued frugality and made the most of what they had, celery wasn't something you used once and threw away. The base was often saved and set in water near a window. It was a simple habit, passed down without much explanation. Just something that worked. For families trying to reduce waste or stretch their food a little further, this kind of regrowth made practical sense. What makes this possible comes down to how celery grows in the first place. At the center of that base is a living growth point that doesn't shut down when the stalks are removed. It stays active. When you place it in water, that moisture signals the plant to begin expanding its cells again. New leaves form from the middle, pushing upward as the plant continues its cycle. It's not starting from seed, it's continuing from what's already there. To help it along, keep things simple. Use a shallow layer of water so only the bottom of the base is sitting in it. Too much water can lead to rot, and that slows everything down. Change the water every couple of days to keep it clean and fresh. Place it somewhere with good natural light, like a windowsill, and give it a little time. You'll start to see new growth forming in just a few days. If you want to take it further, you can eventually move the plant into soil once it has enough new growth and some developing roots. That gives it access to more nutrients and can lead to fuller, stronger stalks over time. But even if you keep it in water, you'll still get usable greens and a clear view of how the plant rebuilds itself. So why did this fall out of everyday practice? Part of it is our shift towards speed and convenience. We've gotten used to full-size produce, ready to use, always available. Waiting for something to regrow, even for a few days, feels slow by comparison. And along the way, a lot of simple plant knowledge faded into the background. We stopped seeing food as something that could continue growing once we brought it home. But when you try this, it brings that awareness back. You start to notice that what looks like the end of a plant is often just a pause. Think of celery like a quiet engine that never fully shuts off. It's just waiting for the right moment, a little water, a bit of light, to start turning again. Fourth is garlic greens, the hidden shoot. Garlic is something most of us think of as a finished ingredient. You break apart the bulb, use a clove, and that's the end of it. But if you take a single clove and set it in a small amount of water, something starts to happen pretty quickly. Within a few days, a bright green shoot begins to grow from the top. These are garlic greens, and they're completely edible, with a mild, fresh flavor that's gentler than the full clove. What makes this so useful is the speed. You're not waiting months to grow a full bulb. You're getting a quick return, a fresh green you can snip and use in your meals within days. It's simple, fast, and doesn't require anything more than a small container and a bit of light. This idea isn't new at all. In many traditional kitchens around the world, garlic wasn't limited to the bulb. The young green shoots were often used as a quick herb, especially when fresh greens were limited. People understood that the clove still held life inside it, and they made use of that early growth stage. It was a quiet kitchen shortcut, something practical that added flavor without needing a full garden. The reason this works comes down to how garlic stores its energy. Inside each clove are nutrients packed tightly together, designed to support the plant's early growth. When you add water and a bit of light, the clove begins to wake from its natural dormancy. That stored energy fuels the first stage of development, sending a green shoot upward. It's a self-contained system at the beginning, which is why it works so easily in just water. To get good results, keep it simple. Place the clove root side down in a shallow dish with just enough water to touch the bottom. You don't want to submerge it completely. Too much water can lead to mold or softening of the clove. Change the water every couple of days to keep it fresh. Within a short time, you will have green shoots ready to use. For the best flavor, harvest them while they're still young and tender. There's no need to overthink it. This is one of the fastest ways to turn something sitting in your kitchen into something growing again. And once you see it happen, it changes how you look at a simple garlic clove. So why did this fall out of common use? Over time, the focus shifted almost entirely to the mature bulb. That's what stores well, what's sold in bulk, what people are used to cooking with. The early green stage became something most people never even noticed. Add to that a general loss of small kitchen habits, and the idea of using garlic this way quietly faded. But when you bring it back, even in a small way, it reconnects you to how much potential is packed into something so simple. Think of it like catching a glimpse of a full-grown tree hidden inside a single seed. It's all there, waiting, just needing the right moment to begin. At this point, you might want to pause for a second and think about which one of these you could try first. Not all 7, just one. Something simple you already have in your kitchen right now. That's really how this works best. Small steps, easy wins, and seeing it for yourself. If you're finding this kind of practical, no-nonsense approach helpful, you can let me know by liking the video. And if you want more ideas like this, things you can actually use in everyday life, consider subscribing. There's more ahead, and a couple of these might surprise you even more. 5th is bok choy, the countertop comeback. Bok choy is one of those quiet plants that doesn't demand attention, but once you notice it, you start to appreciate how efficient it really is. After you've used the leaves, the base that's left behind still holds everything it needs to grow again. Place that base in a shallow dish of water, and within a few days, you'll see fresh leaves forming right from the center. What makes bok choy stand out is how compact and fast it is. It doesn't take up much space, and it doesn't take long to show results. Even on a small windowsill, it can give you a steady little supply of fresh greens. It's not about producing large heads again, but about getting something useful, fresh and alive from what would normally be thrown away. In many Asian households, this kind of regrowing has been a normal part of everyday life for a long time. It wasn't treated as a trick or a trend. It was simply practical. When you cook often and value every part of your food, you naturally look for ways to extend it. Bok choy, with its strong base and quick response, became a natural choice. A bowl of water near the window was all it took to keep that cycle going. From a science point of view, bok choy is especially well suited for this kind of regrowth. The base contains active cells that are ready to divide and expand when conditions are right. Because the plant already holds a lot of water, it responds quickly when placed in a moist environment. Add a bit of light, and those cells begin forming new leaves almost immediately. Early growth doesn't require much. The plant is simply continuing what it was designed to do. To get the best results, light is key. Place your bok choy where it can get steady, natural light during the day. Without enough light, the new leaves can come in pale and weak. Keep the water fresh by changing it every couple of days, and make sure only the base is sitting in the water, not the entire plant. Simple adjustments like this make a big difference in how strong and healthy the regrowth looks. This is one of those methods where consistency matters more than effort. You don't need to do much, but doing the small things right helps the plant keep going. So why isn't this more common in everyday kitchens? A lot of it comes down to how knowledge travels. In many Western households, this kind of practice wasn't widely passed down. At the same time, grocery stores made fresh produce easy to replace at any time. When something feels abundant, we stop looking for ways to extend it. Over time, simple habits like this faded into the background. But when you bring it back, even in a small way, it changes how you see your food. You begin to notice that there's more life in it than you thought. Think of bok choy like a small spring that keeps flowing no matter how often you draw from it. It doesn't rush. It doesn't demand. It just continues, steady and reliable, as long as you give it the chance. Sixth one is basil cuttings, the ever-growing herb. Basil is one of those plants that almost seems to want to grow. If you take a healthy stem, just a simple cutting from a bunch you already have, and place it in a glass of water, it doesn't take long before you see fine white roots beginning to form. From there, it can keep growing, not just once, but continuously, as long as you give it a little care. What makes basil stand out is how easily it adapts. You're not working with seeds or waiting for something to establish itself. You're taking a living piece of the plant and letting it continue its life in a new place. It's one of the simplest ways to grow something fresh without soil, and once it gets going, it can provide a steady supply of leaves right from your countertop. This method has been around for generations. In traditional home gardens, basil was often propagated through cuttings rather than starting from scratch each time. It was practical and reliable. Families would pass down this habit without much explanation. You take a cutting, place it in water, and let it root. Over time, it became less common as people shifted toward buying fully grown herbs from stores, ready to use and easy to replace. From a science perspective, basil is especially good at forming what are called adventitious roots. These are roots that grow from parts of the plant that aren't originally roots, like stems. When you place a basil cutting in water, the plant quickly responds by sending out these roots to absorb moisture and nutrients. It's a natural survival mechanism, and basil does it faster than most herbs. Its structure also allows it to thrive in water for extended periods, making it ideal for this kind of setup. To keep your basil healthy, a few simple habits go a long way. Place the glass somewhere with good natural light, but not intense, direct heat. Change the water regularly so it stays clear and fresh. As the plant grows, trim the top leaves from time to time. This encourages the plant to grow fuller and bushier rather than tall and thin. Also, avoid placing too many cuttings in one container. Giving each stem a bit of space helps prevent crowding and keeps everything growing evenly. One of the reasons this practice faded is convenience. It became easier to buy a fresh bunch of basil whenever you needed it, rather than maintain a living plant. Over time, many people began to see growing herbs as something that required soil, tools, and dedicated space. The idea that you could keep basil alive and producing in just water slowly slipped out of common knowledge. But once you try it, even with a single stem, it changes your perspective. You realize how little it actually takes to keep something growing, and how rewarding it feels to clip fresh leaves from something you've been tending, even in a small way. Think of basil like a conversation that keeps going as long as you keep listening. You don't have to restart it. You just stay with it, give it a little attention, and it continues to give something back. 7th is mint, the unstoppable grower. Mint is one of those plants that almost grows whether you help it or not. If you take a fresh cutting, just a simple stem from a bunch you already have, and place it in water, it begins rooting with very little effort. Within days, you'll see fine roots forming along the stem, and from there, it takes off. It doesn't hesitate. It doesn't struggle. It just grows. What makes mint especially useful is how forgiving it is. You don't need perfect conditions. You don't need special timing. Even if you forget about it for a bit, it tends to keep going. That resilience makes it one of the easiest herbs to grow in water, especially for beginners who are just getting comfortable with this kind of process. Mint has a long history in everyday life. In many traditional households, it was used regularly for teas, for flavoring meals, and simply for its fresh, clean scent. People didn't always grow it in formal gardens. Often, it was kept in whatever container was available, near a window or outside a door. It was part of daily life, not something separate from it. A plant you could reach for whenever you needed a little extra flavor or comfort. There's a reason mint behaves this way, and it comes down to how it's built. Mint produces roots quickly, driven by strong natural growth signals inside the plant. When you place a cutting in water, those signals activate almost immediately, sending out roots to anchor and absorb moisture. It's also highly adaptable, which means it can handle different light levels, temperatures, and conditions better than most herbs. It's designed to spread, to survive, and to keep going. To keep mint healthy and usable, a few simple habits help. Change the water regularly so it stays clean and fresh. This keeps the flavor sharp and prevents any buildup that could affect the plant. As it grows, trim it back from time to time. Mint can expand quickly, and regular trimming encourages new, tender growth instead of letting it become long and leggy. Giving it a bit of attention keeps it balanced. One reason mint has been overlooked in recent years is because it's so common. It's easy to find, inexpensive, and often taken for granted. Many people have shifted toward packaged herbs or ready-made products, forgetting how simple it is to keep something like mint growing right at home. When something feels ordinary, we stop seeing its value. But when you grow it yourself, even in a small glass of water, it feels different. You start to notice how alive it is, how quickly it responds, how little it asks from you in return. Think of mint like a wild idea that refuses to be contained. No matter how many times you cut it back, it comes back stronger, ready to grow again the moment you give it the chance. Growing food does not have to be complicated. Sometimes, it is as simple as giving a leftover root or stem a second chance to grow. Over time, that small step can build awareness, independence, and a new way of seeing food. You do not need to do everything at once. Just pick one plant, try one simple setup, and see what happens. If you found this helpful, like the video, subscribe for more practical ideas, and share this with someone who enjoys simple living. See you in the next one. Just a quick note as you try some of these. These methods are meant for simple home growing and adding a bit of fresh food to your routine, not for full production. What you get can vary depending on your light, your water quality, and the environment in your home. It helps to keep things clean. Use fresh water, rinse your plant bases before placing them, and change the water regularly to keep everything healthy. These are small, practical steps. Keep it simple, pay attention to what you see, and adjust as needed.